Hello, let's continue our lecture on cell. We mentioned cilia by definition is short, multiple hair-like structure, but flagellum is long but single extension of a cell, which is used to move the cell itself. The only example for flagellum would be the sperm in human. So this is the example for the flagellum, single but long extension of the cell. Flagellum is considered the tail of the sperm that make a sperm to move forward. And this, we said last time, are the examples for cilia. We can find cilia in the wall of trachea, and as I mentioned before, cilia also is found in the wall of fallopian tube to move the egg. Here's the example of having cilia in the wall of trachea. When the air comes and has some particles or pollution, this particle will be trapped by this mucus, and then this cilia is going to beat up and is going to bring this phlegm to the mouth, and you can spit it out. Here's an example of cilia in the fallopian tube that is going to move this egg toward the uterus. And finally, this is an example of flagellum that it shows as the extension of this sperm. Of course, is a cartoon. We also last time talked about microvilli. We said microvilli is different than cilia, is not used to move things. Microvilli is used to increase the surface for absorption. And where do we absorb? Well, the most common example that probably you all understand would be small intestine. But remember, we also have microvilli in the wall of a structure in the kidney, and here is your small intestine. That brings us to nucleus. Nucleus is the biggest organelle of a cell and is the brain of the cell. It's composed of three pieces: nuclear envelope, nucleoli, and finally inside the nucleus you find DNA, chromatin, or chromosome. We will talk about the difference between chromatin and chromosome in a minute. The nuclear envelope, or the membrane that separates nucleus from the rest of the structure inside the cell, is the same as cell membrane. In other words, is a double membrane of phospholipid. In the wall of nuclear envelope you may find some holes which are called nuclear pores, and these nuclear pores selectively allow some structure to get in and out of nucleus. Of course, the size here matters. If the structure is too big, it cannot pass through pores, it must be small. Therefore, DNA cannot leave the nucleus, but mRNA, messenger RNA, as many of you understand, can pass through the nuclear envelope and get inside the cytoplasm. Inside the nucleus we have a baby nucleus. It's called nucleoli. Nucleoli is composed of RNA, enzymes, and different type of proteins. The function of nucleoli is making different units of ribosome. You remember that ribosome is composed of small and large units. In this picture you can see the nucleus. This is the nucleus. This is, of course, endoplasmic reticulum. These are the holes or nuclear pores, and this structure is your nucleolus. Nucleolus in this picture, in this electron microscopy slide, you can see is shown very nicely. So this is the whole nucleus. Before we end this series of slides, I need to mention about the chromatin in this picture. DNA and protein together is called chromatin. If chromatin become condensed, we call that structure chromosome. So what's the difference between chromosome and chromatin? Technically, there's no difference. Chromatin and chromosome both are composed of DNA and protein. Chromatin are loosely packed, but chromosome are densely packed. And finally, we get to the last slide. I'd like you to know two different definitions. One is necrosis, another one is apoptosis. I would like to think about apoptosis as a cell suicide. What does that mean? If a cell is not functioning, if the cell is infected by a virus, if the cell is cancerous cell, this cell commit suicide, is going to destroy itself. So attack is not from outside the cell, attack comes from inside the cell. One example of this one that we learned was releasing all the lysosomes at the same time. You will learn about different mechanisms for apoptosis later, but for now, you should know apoptosis is a cell suicide. Necrosis, on the other hand, simply means the cell dies because of attack from outside. The cell is doing what it's supposed to do, is doing its own business. However, there's some attack from outside. Let's say blood supply to the cell would be disrupted. As a result, a group of cells die at the same time. Necrosis is a death because of attack, can be because of destruction of the blood supply, or can be because of attack by some chemicals or other agents. That is going to wrap up our discussion. I'll see you next time.